First contact fallout. The Terrexian Federation's first mistake was assuming Earth's orbital defense grid was primitive. Their second mistake was acting on that assumption. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her holographic presence flickering slightly as she delivered the news that would change human history forever. "They've demanded our immediate surrender," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "The Terrexian Federation claims our orbital platforms violate their galactic security protocols. They've given us 48 hours to dismantle our entire defense network." The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Humanity had spent decades preparing for first contact, but not like this. Not with an ultimatum. "And if we refuse?" Council Chair Rodriguez asked, though everyone already knew the answer. "Then they claim the right to pacify Earth," Chen replied, her expression hardening. "But they don't understand what they're dealing with. They've only seen our visible defenses." The chamber grew quiet. Earth's visible defense grid was impressive enough. A network of satellites and stations that could track a marble-sized object from orbit. But it was merely the surface of humanity's true defensive capabilities. They scanned for energy weapons, for missile silos, for traditional military installations, Chen continued. They haven't detected our quantum entanglement network. They don't know about Project Darkwell. The council members exchanged knowing glances. Project Darkwell had been humanity's insurance policy, a revolutionary defense system that didn't rely on conventional weapons or tactics. It was invisible because it wasn't designed to destroy. It was designed to disable, disrupt, and deconstruct. Their federation operates on strict military doctrine, Chen explained, pulling up analysis of Terrexian ship movements. They expect us to either surrender or attempt a direct confrontation. They're not prepared for how humanity actually wages war. The council watched as Chen's hologram manipulated the tactical display, showing the positions of the Terrexian fleet. Their ships were arranged in perfect formation, following textbook military strategy. It was beautiful, organized, and completely vulnerable to humanity's approach to warfare. "We've been monitoring their communications," Chen continued. "They're so confident in their superiority that they're not even using basic encryption. Their entire command structure, their tactical doctrine, their technological capabilities, we've learned more about them in the last 24 hours than they've learned about us in months of observation." Chair Rodriguez leaned forward. "What are you proposing, Admiral?" Chen's hologram smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "They expect us to fight like them, to marshal our forces, to engage in direct combat, to follow the rules of warfare as they understand them. Instead, we're going to show them how humanity has survived millennia of conflict. We don't just fight wars, we end them." The tactical display shifted, showing Earth's true defensive network, layers upon layers of countermeasures, electronic warfare systems, and quantum disruption fields that had been invisible to Terrexian scans. "They think they're dealing with a primitive species that barely understands spaceflight," Chen said. "Let's show them what happens when you corner a species that turned warfare into a science." The council voted unanimously to reject the Terrexian ultimatum. As Chen's hologram faded out, she was already initiating humanity's response. The Terrexians would learn what Earth's history had proven time and again. Humans didn't fight to win battles. They fought to end wars. The next 48 hours would teach the galaxy why. The silent strike. The Terrexian fleet never saw the first strike coming. There were no missile launches, no energy weapon signatures, no signs of conventional military response. Instead, their ships began experiencing cascading system failures. High Commander Vextor of the Terrexian Federation stood on his command bridge, watching in growing confusion as status reports flooded in. Ship after ship reported complete communications blackouts, navigation systems going dark, and power fluctuations that defied explanation. "Impossible," he muttered, his scaled skin shifting colors in agitation. "They haven't even launched a single attack." But they had. While the Terrexians waited for missiles or energy beams, humanity's quantum disruption network had already begun its work. Each satellite in Earth's defense grid had been transmitting precisely calculated quantum signals, creating interference patterns that turned the very fabric of space-time against the Taraxian fleet's technology. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen watched the operation unfold. Status report on Project Darkwell. Quantum entanglement network at full capacity, her AI assistant reported. Taraxian ships are experiencing cascading failures across all systems. Their quantum probability matrices are being systematically corrupted. The Taraxians have built their technology on predictable quantum states. Humanity, having learned from centuries of warfare that predictability meant vulnerability, had developed systems that weaponized quantum uncertainty itself. They're trying to regroup, Chen observed, watching as the Taraxian fleet attempted to maintain formation despite their failing systems. They still think this is a conventional attack. The Taraxian response was exactly what humanity had predicted. Their ships tried to maintain their disciplined formations, following protocols that had served them well in countless conflicts across the galaxy. But those very protocols made them vulnerable. Second phase, Chen ordered. The quantum disruption field shifted frequency. Now, instead of causing system failures, it began introducing subtle errors into the Taraxian ship's sensor readings. Distance calculations became unreliable. Targeting systems showed phantom objects. Navigation computers calculated incorrect vectors. High Commander Vextor watched in horror as his perfectly organized fleet began to break formation, ships veering off course as their systems fed them conflicting information. How are they doing this? He demanded. Where are their weapons? But the humans weren't using weapons, not in any way the Taraxians understood. They were using the fundamental laws of physics as their weapon, turning the Taraxians' own technology against them. Patterns of extinction. The Taraxian Federation's military doctrine had evolved over millennia of interstellar warfare. They had faced countless species, each with their own tactics and technologies. But none had ever fought like the humans. High Commander Vextor's flagship, now one of the few vessels with partially functioning systems, received the reports from his scattered fleet. Ships weren't being destroyed. They were being rendered useless, their crews trapped inside vessels that could no longer navigate or communicate effectively. Analysis of human attack pattern, he demanded. His science officer's response was hesitant. Commander, there is no pattern. They're not attacking us directly at all. They've created some kind of field effect that's unmaking our technology. The revelation hit Vextor like a physical blow. The humans weren't fighting a war. They were systematically dismantling the Federation's ability to wage one. On Earth, Admiral Chen watched as the Taraxian fleet's formation continued to dissolve. Initiate Phase 3, she ordered. The quantum disruption field shifted again, this time targeting the very quantum processors that formed the heart of Taraxian computer systems. Ships that had barely maintained functionality now found their core systems beginning to decohere at the quantum level. They're sending out distress calls, Chen's AI reported. The messages are interesting. Chen reviewed the translated communications. The Taraxians weren't calling for military reinforcements. They were warning the rest of their Federation about humanity's capabilities. The messages spoke not of weapons or tactics, but of an enemy that could unmake technology itself. Quantum field saturation at 85%. The AI continued. Estimate complete fleet incapacitation in 17 minutes. The Taraxian response came swiftly, but not in the form of a counterattack. Instead, High Commander Vextor himself initiated contact with Earth. You fight without honor, his message began, the translation carrying his mixed tone of accusation and fear. Chen's response was measured. We fight to end conflicts, not prolong them. Your Federation threatened our world. We responded by demonstrating why that was a mistake. The exchange continued as more Taraxian ships fell silent, their systems corrupted beyond recovery. The Federation was learning what countless human adversaries had learned throughout history. When humanity felt threatened, they didn't seek victory. They sought resolution. The awakening. The Terexian Federation's High Council convened an emergency session as reports from their failed Earth expedition continued to arrive. The chamber, usually a model of order and hierarchy, had descended into chaos. They violated every principle of warfare. One counselor shouted, their scales flashing patterns of distress and anger. They didn't violate our principles. Another responded, their voice carrying a new understanding. They ignored them completely. They fought according to their own principles. On Earth, Admiral Chen presented her final report to the Defense Council. The Terexian fleet hung motionless in space, their ships preserved but powerless. Not a single shot had been fired, not a single life had been lost, but the message had been sent. The Terexians are requesting terms, Chen announced. Not for our surrender, for theirs. The council chamber was silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization had resulted not in destruction or submission, but in something entirely unexpected. Respect born of fear. They're asking how we did it, Chen continued. Their scientists can't explain how we affected their technology without direct attacks. They don't understand warfare that doesn't involve destruction. Chair Rodriguez leaned forward. And what should we tell them? Chen's response was careful. I suggest we tell them the truth. Humanity learned long ago that the most effective way to end a war is to make it impossible to wage one. We developed technology not to destroy our enemies, but to render conflict itself obsolete. The Terexian Federation was learning what humanity had known for centuries. True power lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the ability to control the very foundations of reality itself. Pax Humana. 1 year after the failed invasion of Earth, the galaxy had changed. The Terexian Federation, once known for its military might, had transformed. Their encounter with humanity had forced them to confront a fundamental truth. There were ways of exercising power that they had never imagined. Admiral Chen stood before the newly formed Galactic Council, Earth's representative in this new era of interstellar relations. The chamber held delegates from dozens of species, all drawn together by the story of how a primitive world had humbled the mighty Terexian Federation without firing a shot. Humanity's defense doctrine is now required study of the Federation's military academy, she noted with a hint of irony. They're particularly interested in our philosophy that the best victory is one that preserves both sides. The quantum disruption technology that had disabled the Terexian fleet had been transformed into a tool for peace. Ships could now be safely disabled rather than destroyed, making space warfare increasingly obsolete. We came to the stars prepared for war, Chen addressed the council, because our history taught us that power always attracts conflict. But we also came prepared to end wars, because our history taught us that true power lies in making conflict unnecessary. The Terexians, once Earth's would-be conquerors, had become some of humanity's strongest allies. They had learned that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their perspective on conflict itself. As Chen concluded her address, she reflected on how humanity's first steps into the galactic community had unfolded. They had arrived not as conquerors or victims, but as teachers of a lesson learned through millennia of warfare. The most profound victory is not destroying your enemy, but transforming them into allies. The galaxy was learning what Earth had known all along. Humans didn't fight wars to win them. They fought to end them permanently.